All right, we're live. Hello, Facebook and YouTube. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Zach Bates with New Jersey Thespians, and I'm here with the one, the only Mark Drum. Mark, hello. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, what's up, everybody?
So we're going to talk to Mark about his experience. Mark is a New York City-based actor. He's on the EDTA board starting in July, the ETF board. Mark is very involved in thespians. So, Mark, let's start with talk about your theater journey. Where did it start? I know you started in middle school. So kind of talk about your theater journey a little bit.
Yeah, so my theater journey, as you were mentioning, started in middle school, but the theater bug kind of got me even earlier, back in elementary school, where back in 5th grade, we did this show called the Granny Awards, where it was about the fairy tale creatures, kind of like the Tonys, kind of like the Tonys, where the fairy tale characters were putting on the ceremony for grandma. That's why it was called the Granny Awards, and to win an award. And the role that I was selected in was the role of Baby Bear, because back in 5th grade, I was one of the smaller kids and definitely very young looking. And so I got to play the part of Baby Bear, do a little dance sequence and singing in the performance. And it was a lot of fun, and I definitely enjoyed it. And then when I went into middle school, I then performed in middle school, and that's where I learned about thespians. And then I continued on throughout high school. And sorry, I forgot. Where did I grow up? I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Ohio and in Michigan. And so in Ohio, I was primarily in the kind of Metro Columbus area, more south in Lancaster, and then a little bit closer to Cincinnati at Washington Courthouse. And then I moved to Metro Detroit with my family in elementary school. And so that was then I grew up in Novi and then Farmington Hills. So I kind of like jumped around where my parents had work, and then that's where I was growing up. So mainly Midwest.
So, and then did you go to high school in Detroit as well, or did you go somewhere else?
Yeah, I went to high school in Metro Detroit in Farmington Hills. I went to Farmington Harrison, which unfortunately now is closed because of enrollment, but I had a great time there all 4 years. And the cool thing was the last year that it was open, which was last year, my brother got to be one of the last graduating senior classes from high school. So it was super cool to go back one last time and give a hurrah for my brother, but then also for the school.
Awesome. So, where did you go to college? What degree did you obtain, and what was your experience like in college?
Yeah, so when I was applying for schools in high school, I knew I wanted to do something in theater. The main one was, okay, I love theater so much, I want to teach it. I was really inspired by my middle school teacher. Shout out to Miss Kathy Cordell in Farmington Hills. She teaches not only now, she only taught when I was teaching in one middle school, but now she teaches in 2 middle schools. So wow. I think it's really cool and inspiring. But I wanted to go into theater ed. And so looking in the landscape of where is there a theater ed school that I can go? And there weren't that many at the time that was specializing specifically in theater education. And so I looked around. I definitely had a dream school being NYU. And then I was looking at schools in state, but then also mainly out of state because I love the Midwest, but I just wanted to get out. I love traveling. And so I wanted to look elsewhere. And when I was a international thespian officer, one of my friends or one of my colleagues, that was another ITO, had looked into the University of Northern Colorado. And I was like, oh, maybe I should check that out. And so looked into the University of Northern Colorado. They had the theater ed program, but then they also had a strong theater arts program for both acting, musical theater, and just for theater. And that really sparked my interest. And so was looking into there. However, I did get accepted in high school. But my parents were smart, even though to my disliking, they decided, you know what, stay at home for 2 years, get your gen eds done, then transfer to whatever 4-year university you want to go to, which at the time I was not happy. I was like, I'm ready to get out. I'm 18. Let's go. But totally understood their decision. Plus, financially, it helped a lot now looking back. And so I actually did 2 years at two community colleges in Metro Detroit, Oakland Community College and Schoolcraft College. And so got my gen eds done, but then also still got to do some theater. So that was a lot of fun. And then transferred to the University of Northern Colorado in my third year of college. And then I was doing the theater ed program. I loved taking the classes. However, I knew I just loved acting more and just being a part of theater. And so during that time, I was almost thinking about switching schools. And then I went to more auditions. And so for other acting programs, not only at my university, at the University of Northern Colorado, but then other universities. And then I just then decided after auditioning that, you know what, I'll switch my major from theater ed to theater. And so did my theater arts degree and finished. I took another year. So instead of finishing in 4 years, I did a victory lap, as some people like to call it. And I graduated in 5 years and got my degree in theater arts from the University of Northern Colorado. It was a lot of fun. I've met a lot of great people. And plus two, I got to be with two of my ITO companions from when I was in ITO. So it felt like a nice way where I was not going to a new college completely blind.
Right.
I at least knew somebody there. I knew two people actually, so it was super helpful. And then throughout my time in college, it was learning, definitely honing in my craft, but then also trying new things and having fun. So yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry, long-winded answer.
Good. I'm going to mention that I'm putting your social media information on the bottom of the screen there.
Awesome.
And we did throw up that if you guys have any questions to anybody that's watching, please feel free to use the comment section and we'll answer them towards the end. So what happened after college to break you into the business?
Yeah, so after college, kind of like to my own dismay, I moved back home, saved some money, and so stayed at home for 3 years. Stayed at home, or no, it was 2 years. It was 2 years. I felt like 3, but it was 2 years, and I did community theater as well as auditioned for regional theaters in the Michigan area. I had a really great opportunity with the New Theater Work. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. It was in the New Theater Project. There we go. The New Theater Project in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Where the university, where Eastern Michigan University is, for most people that know Ypsilanti, that's not from Michigan, and so got to be a part of that and do a performance piece called Wojciech, kind of a new spin on it, and it was really cool to do. And then while I was doing that, I auditioned for. In Michigan, they were doing a really great tax break for film. So the film industry was coming there. So I was like, okay, you know what? I got to try and get on that. And one of the opportunities that I had was in 2011. After I graduated in 2011 in May, in October, I got to audition and apply for a Disney film, and it was like, what? Okay, a Disney film being filmed here. This is awesome. So I got to be in the background for the Disney's Oz the Great and Powerful, which was starring James Franco, Michelle Williams, Mila Kunis, and that was really cool. Got to spend a month being a part of that, and then afterwards, I had a little bit of a health issue, which I had to take care of. And so took care of that. And then after a year of doing community theater, as well as taking classes and saving up my money and having kind of like that day job, I finally decided, you know what, it's time. I need to move to New York. So in the fall of 2013, I got hired from my previous job that I had to transfer into New York, to where I got to work and have a full-time job, but then also then to pursue my dream. And so then while in New York, it was then a matter of, and which I'm still in now, I then started to audition, apply, and immediately when I got there, it was like, all right, start going, like work my daytime job, and then also just audition. And then when in November, December of 2013, I got asked to be a part of a resident acting company in New York called the Flea Theater, which is down in Tribeca. In the Tribeca area.
Mhm.
And so got to be a part of that for 2 years. And then I did another acting company to hone my craft as well. And I've just been continually audition, and yeah, it's just been a journey. I've definitely kept a daytime job, like help pay the bills. I've been fortunate now to where I have my own place. So luckily I don't have to worry about roommates. It's just me. I just have to worry about my upstairs neighbors, but they're fine. They're great. But
I like that you mentioned, I forgot to mention this right before I asked you this. I like that you said you went to community college first, because I feel like there's such a stigma around community college that I've been going to community college for 4 years now because, it's about the money, but
exactly.
I like that these kids can know that, you're very successful, and we're about to talk about, some of the things you've got to do, and you went to community college to start. So I just want, I want everybody out there to know that there's nothing wrong with going to community college.
No, and I definitely will be an advocate for it. As much as I was in my high school, like late teen age, being like, what? No, I don't want to be at home for another 2 more years. And I just really wanted to be independent. But long term, if you are someone that is a big proponent of your education and really honing in whatever craft that you're doing, community college is a great way to not only save that money, but then also try out other things as well, and to really like decide like, okay, is this for me or is this not for me? Or if you weren't the best student, just taking the community colleges, taking those gen ed classes of your English, art, or English, science, math, social studies, all those, history, getting those out of the way to then focus in on what you really want to do. It's going to help you so much. And you're seeing that money instead of going to a 4-year college where if you're going out of state and even in a private, that's a lot of money that you're investing in. So where you really want to focus, if you're investing in your future, invest it wisely. And so luckily my parents had that mindset for me, which super thankful for having, and definitely, big proponent of community college.
Awesome. So now, when did you get onto MTV's the 90s House? And actually I have a couple pictures we can throw up. You got the 90s House logo.
Yep, there it is.
Then we got the cast of the 90s House, and we got your headshot from the 90s House.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That is a flashback. So that journey of getting on MTV's 90s House, it was actually, I didn't even know what the show was. It was a casting it was on Backstage.
Mm-hmm.
I had a subscription to Backstage, and it was like, hey, are you a big social media person? Do you stay up to date with technology and pop culture? And I'm like, yes. And so I applied. So that whole process took a year, or not a year. It started at the beginning of 2017. Mm-hmm. And so I saw the listing in, I want to say, February. And then I had gotten a email saying, hey, we really liked how you applied, and we saw your video, and we want to talk more with you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like, I don't know what this is, but cool. And going into that process, it was just a matter of, okay, have fun, be myself. You want to do reality TV because it's a pleasure of mine. It's not a guilty pleasure. It is a pleasure. And so I was like, I'm going gung-ho for it. And so went through that process in February. And then in March, it was then more so another interview via video conference. And then we went into more interviews. I had to submit some videos where, as I was talking, I was mentioning, hey, I'm from the Midwest. I grew up in Michigan, in Ohio, and then I was actually born in the Philippines. And then I went out to school west in Colorado, and now I live in New York. And at the time, I was a technology trainer. And so they wanted pictures of that, stories about that, pictures and videos of my family, and then fun little facts like, hey, I do hip hop. So they wanted to see pictures of me doing hip hop. And so did that. And then after all those interviews, not in person, I then got invited to a kind of like a final callback to where I was flown out to LA to meet with the producers and the casting people, to where then I think it was in April. Yeah. So from February, now we're in April. I got the audition there, or the callback, went through that interview. They said I needed to be out there for at least 2 days. I only was out there for a day. I flew in the morning of my audition, and I was finished that night. And then luckily, even though they had me for 2 days, I had the next day completely off. So that was awesome. So got to take that time and be like, you know what? I'm going to take my since I'm in California, LA, this was my second time actually being in LA. And I was like, you know what? I'm in the LA area. I want to go to Disneyland. I've never been to Disneyland. So got to go to Disneyland. Super fun. And so did that. And then, sorry, that was my tripod. Got to do that and just experienced Disneyland. It was super fun. Then waited for a month, and it was in mid-May where I got the, hey, we really liked you. Just keep a heads up. We are considering you to be a finalist, to actually be on the show. And I was like, sweet. Then I was having my golden birthday, because my birthday's in May. And so I turned 29, and I was like, you know what? For my golden birthday, I wanted to do something completely for myself, treat myself, to where I was going to go visit my friend who was living at the time in Hawaii. And I was like, you know what? It's the perfect time. Yeah. I've got, for my day job, I had vacation time saved up. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. But also being smart, I was like, hey, day job, I got this possible casting. I need to make sure I take some time off work. And luckily, I saved up my vacation. It was not until as I was leaving for Hawaii that it was like, we definitely want you. We are booking your flight to California, LA, to be starting filming. And I was like, okay, by the way, I'm in Hawaii, so hopefully that's not an issue. And it wasn't. But I then told my work, hey, they knew about it. I was very upfront. They didn't know exactly what show it was. They just knew, oh, cool, Mark, you're getting cast. And so I let them know, hey, I'm going to need a month off. So not only did I take my 2 weeks in Hawaii, then I took another month to just do the show. And I was fortunate enough to where I saved up 2 months of vacation time. So I took 2 months off of work to not only treat myself for my birthday, but then do this reality show that I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I did the show MTV's 90s House, and it was filmed in June of 2017. And then after we filmed that month, it was a big wait. And the wait was like, all right, what is this airing? They told us possibly the end of summer or midsummer. So July. So we're like, sweet, let's get pumped. Then it was waiting. And then it was like, all right, it's not looking like summer. So most likely fall. And knowing how TV works and how they promote things, I knew if this is going to be on MTV, the only time they're going to start promoting shows for the fall is during the MTV Video Music Awards, which happens in August. And I knew it was going to happen. I was like, I can feel it. And so I was in my apartment with 2 roommates at the time, just chilling in my room, watching MTV on my laptop. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to happen. It's going to happen. And watched through the whole thing. And it was like, midway through where they started doing the promos, and I was like, okay, let's watch it. And then they pull up my scene where I was like bawling, and I was like, yes, I can finally announce it. I can talk about it. So mid-August, they announced 90s House was happening, and that was in September. Then it started airing at the end of September, start of the fall season, and then it aired all the way through to the end of November, right before Thanksgiving, in the US, as well as airing a week later in Canada, and then then throughout the end of the year, it then started airing in Poland, the UK, and then the beginning of 2018, it started playing in Asia. So it was starting to air in all the different MTV networks, and it was just like so awesome. And I was like, I got to keep up with it. And yeah, it was super fun. My time with the 90s House, I stay in contact with most of the cast still. And how it's, and how it's different from kind of like from acting in theater or like film and TV that's scripted. Or reality TV, it is completely, genuinely 100%, for at least this show, I had to be myself. But knowing it's a competition, I made a character for myself. So I was like, you know what? I know what story you want to make me as. I was this geek. I had blonde hair at the time because I was like, you know what? I want to try something else, try something new, kind of give me that edge. But then knowing I did technology, I was super smart with that. I could look like a nerd. I had these fake glasses, which I have, but I have like new ones now. But where I played that up, and I was still myself, but I gave a different version of myself where I was still, you know, energetic, but also super nerdy, kind of like, I don't think I know what I'm doing. And it was a lot of fun. But my other housemates were themselves completely, even though they were another version of themselves too, to where they weren't acting, they were just being themselves, to where, okay, this is how I am, where I was manipulating, masterminding, kind of like almost a villain in the game, to where I was like, you know, I'm gonna have fun just playing up a character, and I was trying to win. And I'm not going to tell you the results because I want you to tune in. It's on all the streaming platforms, or not all streaming platforms. You can find it, at least I know, on Amazon, Apple TV. Sorry, I thought I heard enough. Apple TV, and then also Hulu. Also on the MTV website, if you have a cable subscription, you can watch it. Super fun. But yeah, MTV's 90s House. Great experience. And it's only 8 episodes.
So essentially, is it almost like Big Brother in a sense?
So the 90s House was actually a second season. There was, back in the early 2000s, a TV show called the 70s House, which was the same format, to where what they did was they took a group of 20-somethings and stuck them in a house where they had to live, talk, act, dress in that decade.
Interesting.
So since my decade was the 90s, I had to dress, talk, act like I was in the 90s, which, hey, I was born late 80s, lived through the whole 90s, where some of my contestants lived halfway through. So I felt like I had an edge, and so had a lot of fun doing it. And where we then did these challenges to where kind of like get ourselves out of the comfort zone, into where we had some acting, some dancing, some actually like picking up people at a bar challenges. And so it was a lot of fun, kind of intense, crazy days, to where we were literally shooting from sunrise to like late night hours. And it was just a matter of, cool, whatever you wanted to talk about, it had to be on film. And I think that's where a lot of too, where it feels like sometimes where things get cut in reality TV, they're really just trying to piece those stories together. And the eliminations, they were based solely on the judges and production, the producers of the show. And so how people got eliminated was if they didn't talk the 90s, or they just didn't do well in the challenge. They got eliminated. And since it was only 8 episodes, but there was 10 of us, I knew there was going to be double eliminations. So I was like, I'm ready. Like, whenever these happen, I'm ready to fight for myself to make sure I get there to the top. And so, lots of fun. And yeah, just knowing reality TV, I felt that I had a little bit more of an edge than some of my companions, and it definitely, after talking with them after the show, after like calming some of them down, being like, hey, I was acting, but I was still myself.
Mm-hmm.
It took some time for some, and they understood, and they were like, man, Mark, you were playing the game, you were acting your butt off. And I was like, thank you. Like, that's what I was there for. I was there to play a game and have fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think that's really cool that, you have that reality TV experience, because not a lot of people get to experience that. So I'm happy to know someone that they got that kind of experience. And speaking of your experience, what has been some of your greatest challenges along the way, whether it be personally or professionally, or to get where you are today?
Yeah. So some of my greatest challenges have been just taking rejection well, and knowing that just because they say no, it doesn't mean that they didn't like you. They just think that you weren't the best. It just meant that, and it took a lot of time for me to like realize this, but it was just, I just didn't fit what they were needing at that time. And I knew if I was to go into this industry of acting, that I had to take rejection well, which I was kind of used to, especially being a person of color, where predominantly being in a white majority area, to where I knew that diversity was kind of lacking. But I luckily grew up in the Metro Detroit area, so it was very diverse still, but predominantly more of the majority was white. But roles, it was never a matter of, oh, I don't feel like I can fit this because I'm not, white, or just because it says it's set in a specific country, or like, where it's generally white. I luckily had teachers to where they did not only colorblind casting, but also they looked at mainly our talent. And I knew that I was someone who was always energetic, always willing to learn, willing to hone my craft in, and just build myself up to where I wanted to make sure that, I'm still being myself. I'm learning about me. And there was things that, now looking back, like, yeah, I wasn't ready, and I continued to learn. I took every opportunity as a learning opportunity. I kept learning, like, hey, just because they said no doesn't mean that I'm not the best. It just meant, again, I wasn't ready. And so definitely took those critiques, and I always was seeking feedback. I'm like, hey, what can I do to improve? And I never took the criticism or like the feedback that people were giving me, like, hey, like, yeah, just because you do it this one way, why don't you try another way? And I'm like, okay, you know what? You're right. Try another way, because it might work. It might not work. It's a matter of trying and learning how to fail, but then not taking that failure as a learning opportunity. And so definitely took that as a learning opportunity and learned from that. I also learned that through my challenges is like, hey, if you're going to do something that you're passionate about, go in it. You can either have a plan. If you're someone who's a planner, definitely have a plan, but sometimes plans don't always work out, and be ready to expect the unexpected. And like with the 90s house, that was totally unexpected. But I also had a plan. Like, I'm going to make sure, like, hey, I still need a job after this. Like, who knows if this was going to be a major hit, like it was going to be the next Jersey Shore, but clearly it wasn't, and that was okay. I was there for the experience. I wasn't trying to claim fame. Like, yeah, fame is kind of a cool thing, but I was there to have a fun experience. Hey, possibly win that money. I'm still not telling you if I won that money or not, but who knows? Maybe I did. Tune in. And it was more so just take everything in. The best thing I know that when you had Brian on your show was network. Like, you never know who you're going to be ending up meeting. And I've had the fortune of where I am this very extroverted person, but growing up, I was very shy. I was like, I don't want to talk to strangers. Like, and Peter really opened me up. Like, I had to talk. I had to be out there and be energetic and show energy, show passion. And to where sometimes like sometimes I can feel introverted, like shy, but I know like if I'm on that stage, I can completely be another character or be someone else or be a confident version of myself. And I know that if I'm not the best for something, I'm going to keep learning. I never take no as the final answer. I always see it as okay, it's a no now, but maybe later there's something else that's going to happen. And anytime I got a critique, I also learned that it's okay to take the critique, but I never wanted to fight back. Like, actually, that's not what I think. And, kind of like keeping my ego in check to where I really kept myself humble, but also knowing to just say thank you. Like, as much as there's people that want to tear you down, kind of like the trolls on the internet, those online bullies, just learning how to just say thank you and being like, thank you. I appreciate your comments. Keep tuning in. Like, that was one thing that I learned from the show too, where our marketing team was telling us like, hey, if anyone talks to you, like wanting to know about the show, like, or just tearing you down, just say thank you. Keep tuning in. Tune in to find out. And it was like, oh my gosh, that's super smart. Just say thank you. And a lot of my other acting coaches also said that, just saying thank you. And also noting that anytime that I was taking critiques in front of a class, when they heard me just say thank you, and then I just moved on, wrote down the note. They're like, see what Mark's doing? He's just taking the note. He's working on it. He can either take it or not. And again, when you're getting that critique, you can take it with a grain of salt, or you can really hone in on your craft. And so even though you can be your own worst critic, knowing that you are your own worst critic, you got to know that you have to take that as kind of like that fight or flight. And I always fight rather than flight. And so I always take every opportunity as learning opportunity, whether it's to better myself, but then also, hey, just know that it wasn't my time. And I'm definitely a big proponent of perseverance. If there's something that I want to go out for, I definitely try again. And I've definitely had those challenges where I never got it the first time around. I've been auditioning for reality TV since I was 18. Like, I knew like the age. I was like, okay, I'm an adult. I know I can start auditioning for all these different reality TV shows. But then as I got older, it's like, okay, now I have to be like over 21 and all that stuff. And just knowing, hey, I got to read. Important. Reading the descriptions and the materials of what you're going for and understanding it is super important as well. To where you're not just going, oh, I'm going to wing it. Like, you can definitely wing it if you feel like you have that natural ability, but I definitely don't. I'm someone who's a planner who likes to study what I'm going through. And it was definitely a challenge of mine to where I just continued learning about it and really working on my craft. And yeah, that's been some of my challenges, learning to accept no, but persevering and continuing to hone my craft, because just because I got my degree in theater doesn't mean I'm the end all be all of knowledge. There's so many other great forms of acting and abilities to learn, to where, hey, just because I want to be an actor doesn't mean I'm going to be a working actor at the very beginning. So I luckily had other skills. I had other passions that I was learning about. So as much as I love theater, I also know, hey, if I have a hobby, build that hobby. I love taking photography. I love taking photos of people. I love just taking photos in general. And so I was really working on my craft in photography. I also like social media, so I work on social media stuff. I like building websites. Back in the early 2000s, doing all those HTML codes, making my MySpace profile great, or my Facebook, having all those different little apps. Or I also was really great at technology. I'm an early adopter. I'm a technophile. Like, I have to learn all these new things. So where I think that's been a really great ability of mine is that I'm someone who's continually a sponge that wants to learn. So that's definitely something that I am a big proponent on, is that just because acting is a really big passion of mine, something I dream to continue doing, I also know, hey, be realistic too. Have a plan for if it doesn't, have a fallback plan. And a fallback plan being like, is there something else that I'm also passionate about? And I do have other passions. I love learning. So if there's a new opportunity that I can continue building my myself in other abilities, I'm going to take that opportunity. And not many people have that. That realization where I think continuing to learn something new, challenge yourself. And so I'm definitely challenging myself now. I've switched roles. I'm now learning more about accounting and banking. And so it's like completely different from well, it's not completely different from technology, but now I'm doing more numbers and so more math things, which is super fun. But yeah, continuing to hone my craft and learning and persevering, I would say. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, yeah, listen, that's a lot of great advice there. And it's funny, you said something about being shy, and I just kind of laughed. I was like, there's a lot of words I could use to describe you, Mark Drum, but shy is not one of them.
I know, right?
I honestly don't even remember the first time we met. I just feel like I just known you forever because you're Mark Drum.
Yeah, that's the best thing too that I really am a big proponent on is that even though I learned at an early age, like just because I'm shy doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Like just because you're an introvert, I would say too, like as much as I'm an extrovert, I know I have best friends who are introverts and they're the best. Like as much as my energy like feeds off to them, I also still know like, hey, I'm gonna take a step back. Like I know I'm being too much, but I also appreciate what their perspective is. Like also learning other people's perspectives. And so I learned too, as much as I love talking, a big thing too is to listen. Not only listening actively to the other person, especially in acting too, like you're actively listening to your scene partner and all that, but also just listening, getting to know them. And I love how you're saying like just because you can't remember when we first met, it feels like you've known me for like forever, which
Right.
I'm just like thankful for, which I hope I always try to do whenever I'm meeting people. Like, hey, I hope like we can just become like instant friends, and kind of like that childlike mentality of like, oh my gosh, I just met you in the playground, let's be best friends now. It's like okay, and then just keep playing.
That's awesome.
I
That's a great reference.
lively energy. Yeah.
So I know you've watched all my shows. So you know it's that time of the show where I like to do my famous Phil Murphy switching gears. Gotta love that governor giving me something to talk about every day. So I know we mentioned this a little bit, but you were both a middle school thespian and a high school thespian.
Yes.
So in those roles, did you have any leadership roles in the organization?
Yeah. So for the International Thespian Society, I was inducted back in 2001 as a 2001. I was a eighth grader. I had to remember that at a moment. It was in the fall. So yeah, the start of my eighth grade year, I got inducted to be a junior thespian in the International Thespian Society, which is now a part of the Educational Theater Association, where I was inducted to Troop 88331 from East Middle School in Farmington Hills, Michigan. And so I was a junior thespian. And then from there, and also in 2001, we obviously know what happened 9/11. So it was really crazy at that time being inducted. And we actually got invited. We performed this piece from Michael Scanton called Give and Take. And we performed it and we got invited to the first Junior Thespian Festival, which back when ETA was doing it, they did kind of like regionals instead of just the states.
Gotcha.
To where we went from Michigan, from Metro Detroit to Pittsburgh to perform our piece for junior thespians at the first conference or festival, and that was like my first time immersing into that role. And in my leadership, I was definitely an overachiever. I was definitely someone who was an advocate for the arts. I also did sports. I was doing cross country and track in middle school. I was in the orchestra. I was in choir. I was also in the honor society. So I definitely knew like career wise, I'm like, all right, even at that early age, I was like, I have a plan. I need to get this, this, and this, so then I can get to this, this, and this, to then get to this, this, to there. And so I did our performance of Give and Take, and that's when really I got to know about the Educational Theater Association and International Thespian Society. And I had the fortune of in middle school as well, I got to perform my individual event, which now it's called the Thespies, but back at the time it was the individual events, to where I performed a piece, which at the time they had mime. And so I did mime. I did a solo mime piece to the William Tell Overture. And it was the story of waking up late, getting ready for school. And it was a lot of fun. And I had the fortune of getting critiqued, and I got the superior. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what? This is like my first time like competing in something in theater, and I get a superior. Like, what? So then what happens next? So then I got invited as a middle school, 8th grade middle schooler to go to the International Thespian Festival, which was 2 years ago, ended at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln. And I got to compete. And having already knowing that superior, like I had like the highest score, I was like, okay, keep honing this in, get excited. Like in my middle school stuff, I'm like, I'm super excited. Like I'm going to do really, really well. And then I get there, I see all these high school people, and I'm like, man, they're really good. Like, and so then when I got my scores back, it was like, so it goes from superior, excellent, good, and fair. I got a good. And I was like, okay. Hurt my ego a little bit, but I was like, okay, at least I know I can work on it. And I was really passionate about miming because my middle school teacher, we got to see at Wayne State University a performance by a really well-renowned mimist, Marcel Marceau. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to see Marcel Marceau perform. And just what he was doing with mime, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, as much as I like talking, like I can just act without having to speak and just use my body and my movement to tell things. I was like, I'm in it. And so that's how I did my solo mime piece. That's how I got into thespians. Then it just like catapulted from there. I then was our middle school then got invited to be a part of to host the Junior Thespian Festival in its 3rd year.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got to go back. I got to be one of the leaders for the middle school students as a high schooler. So that was really cool. And when my middle school was hosting, that's when I first got introduced to the International Thespian Officers, to where this girl named Lara, she from Pennsylvania, she was doing her dance piece or dance class, and then talking about like, I'm an ITO, I have a sash, like all this cool thing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to be a student leader and do all that stuff and get to travel. Like again, like the main thing was like travel. I love travel. Like, let's go. And so then I was like, I got to do this. And when I was at my high school, we didn't have a thespian troupe active. Before, there was an active thespian troupe back in the early, I want to say like 80s, early 90s, but then it kind of like dissolved. And so then my friends and I, we were like, let's re-get this on. And so we got a thespian society started at the beginning of I want to say it was our freshman year. Like we were really gung-ho about like getting this started. And so we started our freshman year, and then we actually got it in place in our sophomore year. Mm-hmm. And then that's when it was like, okay, my sophomore year was when our middle school was doing the Junior Thespian Festival. And then it was like, okay, ITO, I definitely want to do that. So then in my sophomore year, my middle school teacher took me and some of middle schoolers back to Lincoln for International Thespian Festival. So this was my 2nd year. And I applied to be an ITO. I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is for me. Like, I'm super excited. Like, I want to do this. Like, I feel like I can do this. I feel like I'm a leader. I got all these ideas and energy. And back at that time, I definitely felt like I had it, but I wasn't ready. And the funny thing was, I remember this vividly. 2 of the ITO did not like me at all. And it was like kind of, I was like, how can anyone not like me? And I was like, they just didn't like me. And I was like, all right, like it hurt my ego. But then looking back, I'm just like, all right, they didn't like me, move on. But I then went into my junior year, did my junior year. Then it was coming up for the next festival. And then I was actually reached out by one of the ITO at the time, as well as the events director, Nancy Brown, who's going to be retiring this year. And
Gonna miss Nancy.
was yes, love Nancy. And so then she was talking to me about like, hey, are you interested in still applying? And I was like, you know what? I don't know. Like, again, back then I was like, my egos have been hurt. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I can't take this rejection. Like, if I'm not gonna get it, because I was like hurt when I didn't get it that first time because I thought I was ready and I was like, it's my time. Like, I was ready, but it wasn't my time.
Right.
And my junior year, I applied, and luckily I went in more confident too. I was, like, still gave my energy, but I was confident. Like, I know I'm the right job for this. Like, I had to get all political kind of thing to where I was like, okay, I can do this. To where then I gave my statement, gave my like campaign. At the time, you could campaign, so it was really bad. Like, I had posters ready. I was like, I'm making these posters of like, vote for me, do this, do that. Like, just remember who I am. Like, still using my energy, but then I was like, okay, I also have to give you like kind of like my resume, where it felt like, okay, this is where I am as a student leader. This is where I think I can give to the organization.
Mhm.
To where that was me. Some of my other ITO companions. It was funny. I asked one of them, "Can you do a toe touch?" Because they said they were a cheerleader, and it was a guy, and he could do the toe touch, and that's how. And jokingly, he thinks that's how he got it, but really, I thought he was a leader, so clearly he should have gotten it, and he did. But yeah. So there was that. I became an ITO. I was an ITO my senior year, and then did the whole year as an ITO. Yep, there's our picture. Oh my gosh, that was at the first flea market that I was at. That was my first time in New York. Got to be at the Broadway Cares flea market, and it was a lot of fun. We raised money for Broadway Cares and also talked about the International Thespian Society to ongoers, and it was a lot of fun. And then got to be a part of the International Thespian Festival, getting to be on the main stage, introducing shows. And it was really cool too because the neighboring high school of mine, Farmington High School, in my district, got invited to perform their piece on the main stage. And so it was like super honor. I was like, oh my gosh, I get to introduce you. Super excited. I knew a lot of the people there. They were my friends, and some of them were junior thespians when I was in middle school. So it was like, yay, like we're all doing this. We're like doing this together. And it was super cool. Like, I got to be a student leader. They got to perform and do all that. And then I went into and then as I was an ITO my senior year, I was also an STO, a student thespian officer in Michigan, and did 2 years. I was a student thespian officer in my senior year, and then my first year in college, since I was in community college, I helped out with the student thespian officers in 2007, 2008. So that was a lot of fun too. And then I took a step back in 2008 because then I transferred to the University of Northern Colorado. But then while I was at the University of Colorado, one of my professors, Dr. Mary Shuttler, who was the volunteer coordinator for Colorado Thespians, and so got to help out with Colorado Thespians through my 3 years in Colorado, acting as a door guard and then a timer, as well as then adjudicator for individual events, which is now the Thespies for Colorado. And then after I graduated, came back to Michigan, then took a step back. But then before that, I was from 2007 to 2011, I had been volunteering to go back to the International Thespian Festival as a volunteer, and got to be the stage manager for the Johnny Carson Theater for the one act plays. It was a lot of fun. And then I had to take a step back. I took a step back and was like, okay, I keep volunteering. I kind of want to do more. And so I took a couple years. And then in 2013, I decided, you know what? I want to teach a dance class. And so I then started teaching hip hop choreography for the International Thespian Festival in 2013, and I've been doing it since. Now that it's gone virtual, their budget has gotten gotten a little tighter, and because of what's happening right now, unfortunately, I'm not going to be presenting at this year's virtual ITF. However, I'm super excited to be getting to be a participant because it's been open to everybody, and so I'm super excited to just be a participant and see everything now. Like, I don't have to be worried about, oh my gosh, I have to get my workshop presented.
Mm-hmm.
Be ready and just watch everything happen, and take Tina Fey's class, also Jerry Mitchell's class, also all the other guest artists that who've been doing international ones that did get chosen. I could just take their class too now and be like, oh my gosh, I have this time to where I get to take the class, where I don't have to worry about like, oh no, I didn't have the time when I was in Lincoln. Now I'll have the time to just take the class. And if I'm not taking it live, I get to look back and be like, okay, I can watch this later. So that's what makes this virtual ITF more exciting. And even more affordable too, because I know going to Lincoln was expensive. And I was lucky to have like a great parent organization. My parents were great too, affording this too. This was kind of like my trip. Like, okay, if you want to do one big thing, like, what are you going to do? And it's like, it was always, I want to go to ITF. And so that was like my summer camp every year that I went to. And I got
and I actually have a video that you sent me here. Hang on.
Yes.
Let me make sure I got this. All right, I'm going to take out my earphones so you can hear it.
Oh, there I am. And there's one of my blonde hair. Yes, that's me teaching. And this is at the Texas Thespian Festival. So this is me teaching.
I'm probably going to sleep on that time because I still didn't get it.
That was you, Mark.
Yes,
and
at the Texas Thespian Festival. So I had the opportunity. Not only was I teaching it at the International, I then got invited to other states, and I've been lucky to be going to over now 10 states. And yes, other guest artists. There's Ruben, Aaron, and Adam, and they're all over the U.S. Washington for Ruben, Cincinnati for Aaron, and Los Angeles for Adam. And so it was really great networking. And so I got to meet them, be a part of that, and then I had the opportunity when I moved to New York, at the starting of 2014. I spent 4 years helping with the New York Thespians. So from 2014 to 2018, I was helping with New York Thespians as the student thespian officer coordinator and liaison. So helping with their STO. And then when I had gotten, obviously I stopped in 2018. It was because of not only was I doing the Ninth House and then like doing all of that stuff, but then also like trying to keep my day job, and then also like other personal things had happened where I was just like, I got to take a step back. But then I had the next great opportunity in 2018 to be a board of. I was asked if I was interested in being a board of trustee for the Educational Theater Foundation, which is the fundraising arm for the Educational Theater Association, which their main focus as the Educational Theater Foundation is to raise funds for schools, to have theater programs in their schools, and to have access to theater. And so that's been a lot of fun raising. And you can, I see that you put it on the screen. So yes, if you're interested, definitely donate. I'm definitely a big proponent of, if you have a passion, definitely donate into your passion, or whether that's monetary or volunteering your time. I am a big proponent of volunteer in something to give back. I am someone who wants to pay it forward. And so I've had that opportunity to be a part and be asked and then be appointed as a board of trustee for the Educational Theater Foundation. And then this past year, I ran for the Educational Theater Association board of directors, which is the governing board, which kind of is how we see the organizations running. And I know Brian mentioned this. Our job is to focus on the one employee that we have, which for me is going to be Julie Theobald Cohen. And so that's our main focus there. And we focus on that, or sorry, Julie Cohen Theobald.
I was like, wait a second, hang on.
I mixed up the names. I'm so sorry, Julie. I want to get that right. So Julie Cohen Theobald, and that's our focus is where we see the future of EDTA going and thespians, and making sure we provide access to theater in all schools, and especially what's happening now, we want to make sure that people have this outlet, giving not only students that opportunity to still be a part of an honorary society, but also giving the professional educators and having professional teachers skilled in theater to learn more of what they can do to help, as well as having a public influence to making sure that EDTA is that go-to person for theater education. And so I have that great opportunity coming up. I'll be serving on the EDTA Board of Directors for 3 years, starting in July. And I'm finishing up my second year in my first term as a Board of Trustee for Educational Theater Foundation. And yeah, like I've definitely gone from student leader to now adult leader for the organization. And it's been a lot of fun, lots of learning about not only myself, the organization, but just having fun doing it in the process and getting to really make that impact. So yeah, I'm super excited about that.
Awesome. And then, so, are you able to be hired by schools to do different services? Like, can you teach or guest artist or anything?
Yes, I would love to be a guest artist for any teachers out there watching. I will love to. I had the great opportunity from Central High School in Colorado. Shout out to them. Thank you, Miss Metzler, who is a former classmate of mine at the University of Colorado. Now she's a theater ed teacher there and troupe director. And so I had the opportunity to teach for her and give like a Q&A, or I know I'm coming up in Iowa. I will be teaching a hip hop choreography class for Pleasant Valley High School. Shout out to Dr. Myatt for reaching out to me in doing a class for them. And I've been asked from Brownell High School to do acting on camera class for them. So super excited for that. Shout out to Miss Ziegler for inviting me to do that as well. So again, I'm more than happy to do on acting on camera techniques, hip-hop choreography, scholarship prep, audition prep, student leadership. I'm super, whatever it is, if I have that skill, I'll be more than happy to. Or again, my biggest proponent to networking, I'll be more than happy to give you other names and other resources that are out there. Just like with Brian, he has that Teaching Artist Alliance, TAA, which is a great network as well to reach out to. And so definitely can reach out to them, or Michael DiBianco for fundraising as well. So lots of great resources out there.
Sorry about that. I had to get something for my eye. My eye has been burning.
Fine.
Allergies are not fun.
No.
There's a lot of events that EDTA produces that you are involved with. What's one of your favorite ones? I know that you were really involved in the Broadway Back to School last year, and you've been at the event. I feel like every year that I've been there. So what's one of your favorite event? Obviously, they have the conference, the leadership summit. There's I know I'm probably forgetting a few, but what do you think your favorite one is?
So I'm going to be very diplomatic about this, kind of like a parent. Each one holds a very special place in my heart for very different reasons. Where for Broadway Back to School and Thespians Go Hollywood, that is a great opportunity for the Educational Theater Foundation to really be that, to influence the public about the importance of theater education and having theater in our schools. So that's super important, and especially influencing people in New York for Broadway Back to School, and then LA for Thespians Go Hollywood. That's been fun. And then having the opportunity to be a part of the National Arts Summit, which before it was called Arts Advocacy Day in March, March is Theater in Our Schools Month, which is super fun, talking about and advocating for theater, and then getting to speak to our representatives in schools. And then there's for the states, there's their thespian festivals and conferences, which are really great. In each state, they have their own unique and amazing little niches for how they run it. And I love every state that I've been invited to. And there's states that I haven't been invited to, or even if I haven't been applying for, I would love to go there and teach. And if it's issue with money, like I will be someone who's like, if I can get there, like luckily with my network, I have friends that live there, like I can crash somewhere if I need a place to crash, or just find a way to just get myself there. I will make it happen. I would love to do it. Like my goal is to hit all the states that we have chapters in, not only in the US, but also internationally. I would love to go to any of the international ones as well, like festivals as well. So that's a goal of mine. And then for the educators, the Educational Theater Association Conference is really amazing. That's this year. It's going to be in hopefully in Florida in October. And then we have for the volunteer leaders the Leadership Summit, which happens in July. Super excited about that happening in Seattle. Hopefully,
fingers crossed.
So hopefully we'll still get to go. It still sounds like we are from the website, so I'm super excited. And for the students, not only the state conferences, but then the Thespian Festival there, and now especially being virtual, it's going to be super exciting. And a lot of other different programs too, like for the Educational Theater Foundation, we have the Jumpstart Theater, which is super cool, where we have those now currently in 28 schools, with hopefully now that we're getting it's coming to Michigan, which I'm super excited about. Thank you, Jeffrey Seller, for that donation. To where they're going to be in Detroit Public Schools. So I'm super excited to see how we're bringing theater back into the Detroit area. And yeah, there's just so many programs, and you can find all that information on schooltheater.org about all the different events that the Educational Theater Association does for the International Thespian Society. So many things.
I was crossing my fingers because the place in Florida looks absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
I know Jim Curtis is the guy that's in charge of the conference. I know that he is very excited for this place. I heard it's a beautiful, beautiful location. And Seattle, I've never been to Seattle. I'm crossing my fingers. Hopefully that this pandemic ends quick enough that, or gets manageable quick enough that we can all get out there, because I know all of us missing the in-person International Thespian Festival. We all like to get together, see our friends, and you've seen in every video, the phone has to ring at least twice, or it's not a web stream. All right, so we're almost out of time. I do want to ask you one more question, because you are in New York, and obviously New York is the epicenter of this pandemic. What do you think theater and the Broadway scene are going to look like after we come out of this pandemic? Because, obviously there's going to be some restrictions right off the bat. And some of those theaters are not going to be able to operate and do a show with people sitting 6 feet apart, just because they need that ticket revenue to be able to afford that show for the night. So what do you think, as someone that lives there and sees it every day, what is it going to be like, do you think, when we come out of this pandemic?
Yeah, so coming out of this pandemic, I think the important thing is too, like, even though I'm getting super excited about Seattle, Florida, health is going to be super important. Like, our health is super important. So whatever happens, it'll happen for good reason. And so hopefully we can go and be able to travel soon. But if it doesn't happen, then we will find a way to continue going. I mean, theater has gone through many plagues throughout history. And so it's something where it will continue to go on. People will want to be entertained. And I think being in New York too, New York is a city for those, I would say, hustlers, for those go-getters, and people will continue to find ways to make theater happen or to perform happening. And I think, yes, there's definitely going to be like a new normal, but we will find a way to get through this. But again, health and safety is super important, and making sure that everyone stays healthy and our well-beings are great. And also not only our physical, but our mental too. Like, it's super great getting to do this and talking. Like, I know we've gone over an hour and I'm so sorry, but it's been super fun. Like, I love talking. Like, clearly I love talking, but super important too that if you need to reach out to somebody, reach out to those people. Like, hey, if you want to reach out to me, go ahead. I'll take the time to chat. But again, having a great network and having a support system, and again, New York has that support system. We're all in this together. We all want to make sure that we continue to thrive. And I think through this, Broadway will look a little different, but it will still thrive and still happen. It might not be immediate. It might take some time. Just like with anything, there are growing pains and learning opportunities, but you got to persevere. Like, you got to be able to take that no, or that just wait, it's not ready yet. Like, it's not your time, or it's just not time now, but it will be soon. And so having patience is going to be super important, but also knowing that our health and safety is also a big component on that. So yeah.
And you said the show, like you said, the show must go on this Sunday, which is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day early to all those mothers out there that have adopted maybe both Mark and I along this journey. Their Broadway Cares is going to be putting on a big event online, and it's going to be cast members from Moulin Rouge, Jagged Little Pill, the Tina Turner musical, Chicago, Mean Girls, Mrs. Doubtfire, just to name a few, and a name that I see that stands out to me that will be participating as well as James Monroe Englehart. I'm a huge fan of him. I talked to, I think, Michael DiBianco when we talked about him in length, how great of a guy he is. And it's a star-studded lineup. But I've been doing this every show now. Besides the EDTA or the ETF, donating to them, Broadway Cares are doing a great job helping with the Actors Fund, and they hit their COVID-19 Emergency Assistance Fund. So there's the link if you're able to help, and I'll throw up the ETF one more time. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. We've had a great conversation, and I think there's a lot of learning that came out of this for the students. Everyone that joined us, please stay tuned next week. We have Rich Frazier from Georgia, and one more special guest that we're not sure who it's going to be yet, but we still have one more special guest. So join us next week. Thank you guys all for watching.